We are about to pull back the curtain on a hidden mechanism deep inside our brains. It's this powerful filter that, believe it or not, shapes our reality pretty much every second of the day, and we don't even know it's there. It's what decides how we see our wins, our losses, and ultimately, ourselves. I want you to just let that sink in for a second. We all like to think of ourselves as pretty honest people, right? Especially with ourselves. But what if I told you that your brain is actually hardwired to be a reality distortion machine? That its number one job isn't to show you the objective truth, but to protect you from it. Well, that is the incredible paradox we are going to unpack today. So, to really get this, we have to stop thinking of our brain as some kind of impartial judge, calmly weighing all the evidence. Nah. Instead, I want you to picture your brain as a slick, high-powered defense attorney pacing in front of a jury, working 24/7 for its one and only client, you. And this right here, this lays out the fundamental battle happening inside our heads. On one hand, you've got the ideal version of us, the scientist brain. This is the part of us that genuinely wants to learn from our mistakes, that wants to look at all the data objectively and get to the truth. But here's the kicker, that's not its main job. Its primary biological function is to be your defense attorney, and its only goal is to get a not guilty verdict for your ego. It cherry-picks evidence, it conveniently ignores the stuff that makes you look bad, and its closing argument is always, always the same. It wasn't your fault. This whole process is what some scientists call the reality distortion machine. It's the reason why in an argument you can remember with perfect clarity every single tiny thing your partner did wrong, but your own missteps, they're kind of a convenient blur. Your brain is actively filtering what you see to create something called an ethical mirage, where you feel like you're being totally objective, but you're actually living in a custom-built reality where you're always the hero. And let's be super clear, this isn't a moral failing, it's a built-in feature of the human operating system. Okay, so this all sounds a little abstract, right? So how does it actually show up in the real world? Well, let's ground this in a universally painful, a relatable experience, the group project. Come on, be honest. Think back to school, or maybe even a project at work last week. You were the one up late. You did all the heavy lifting. You basically carried the entire team on your back, right? Well, the fascinating and frankly kind of terrifying thing is that if we could pull everyone else on your team, chances are they would tell us the exact same story about themselves. So how can everyone be doing 80% of the work? Well, this craziness actually has a name. It's called attributional asymmetry, and it's one of your brain's favorite little shortcuts. When things go well, let's say the project gets an A, your brain immediately says, yep, that was my brilliant idea. But when things go poorly, the deadline gets missed, it just as quickly says, well, so-and-so didn't pull their weight. It's an automatic subconscious thing. You're not trying to lie. You're just a victim of your own brain's super effective ego protection service. So why does the brain go to all this trouble? Well, because on a deep biological level, the truth can literally hurt. Admitting you were wrong or lazy or just not good enough, it triggers the same social threat signals in your brain as getting rejected in public. It can cause a state of action paralysis, a total shutdown. So to prevent that, your brain evolved its own internal PR department. Its only job is to spin every story, highlight your best moments, blurt out your mistakes, and ultimately just keep you confident and moving forward, even if it has to bend reality to do it. Okay, let's pop the hood. Now that we know why the brain does this, let's look at the actual system that's at work. We're going to deconstruct the nuts and bolts of this ego protective filter. I want you to think of this system as a kind of biological logic gate in your head. It's called the attributional filtering circuit, and its main job is to auto-edit your personal history as it happens, in real time, making sure you always come out looking good. It's not that you're remembering something and then lying about it, it's that your brain is encoding a biased memory from the very beginning. Let's just walk through how this circuit works. Step 1, an outcome happens. Let's say you get a raise. Awesome. Step 2, your brain reacts. The reward center floods with all those feel-good chemicals. Now step 3, and this is the key, the filter kicks in. Your brain's logic center immediately looks for a cause, and it finds an internal one. I got this because I'm smart and I worked hard. Perfect. Now let's flip it. Let's say you get corrected by your boss. The outcome is negative. Now your brain's pain center lights up. The logic center goes to work again, but this time its job is to find an external scapegoat. My boss is just in a bad mood, or the instructions were unclear. Step 4, that filtered story gets woven into your personal narrative.
The internal blame was filtered out before it even had a chance to become a memory. So you don't feel like you're making an excuse, you genuinely believe it wasn't your fault.
I mean, this whole thing sounds pretty dysfunctional, doesn't it? Which leads to the really obvious question. Why on earth would evolution select for a trait that makes us so, well, delusional? The answer comes down to something called the confidence premium. You see, for our ancestors, survival wasn't really about being perfectly accurate all the time. It was about persistence. A tribe member who was constantly second-guessing themselves and admitting every little mistake would have been seen as unreliable. This is the exact same mechanism that allows an entrepreneur to get back up after 5 failed businesses. But it's also the source of some really dangerous overconfidence. The brain basically learned to prioritize feeling capable over actually being correct, because the paralysis that comes from self-doubt was a way bigger threat to survival than the delusion that comes from self-confidence. So are we just doomed to live inside this little reality distortion field forever? Absolutely not. The great news is that once you know the filter exists, you can actually learn to manually override it. This next part is all about the practical tools you can use to do exactly that. The entire game changes with this one mindset shift. You have to consciously switch your brain's mode of operation. You have to tell that internal defense attorney to sit down and instead bring in an auditor. Stop defending your ego and start auditing your performance. That's how you take the blinders off. Okay, so here are 3 incredibly powerful tools for doing this ego audit. First up, the outside-in audit. When something goes wrong, force yourself to see it from a different angle. Ask, okay, if I were my own worst critic, what would I say I did wrong here? Second, success credits. The second you achieve something, before your brain can grab all the glory, immediately write down 3 people who helped you or 3 lucky breaks you got along the way. And third, a brilliant technique called failure autopsy.
Here's how a failure autopsy works. When you're analyzing a mistake you made, write about it in the third person. So instead of writing, I missed the deadline because I'm lazy, you write, the individual missed the deadline because they didn't prioritize their morning. See the difference? Just by using the individual instead of I, you create this psychological distance. It lowers that threat response in your brain, and it lets you analyze the behavior objectively without all the emotional sting. It turns a painful failure into a really useful piece of data.
And this all brings us to the final, and I think the most important idea of all. It's about completely reframing the goal of self-awareness. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about shifting from a state of constant self-protection to one of genuine self-development. We've all heard that old saying, right? That success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. Well, real growth starts when you flip that on its head, when you learn to share the credit for your successes and you actively go out and adopt your failures. Because those failures, the very same ones your brain is trying so hard to blame on someone else, that's where all the best lessons are hiding. So here's the bottom line. Your brain's default setting is to protect your ego, even if it comes at the cost of your own growth. But you have the power to override that programming. The goal isn't to build an ego that's untouchable. It's to build a better, wiser, more self-aware person. So the takeaway I want you to leave with is this simple reframe. Don't protect the ego, grow the person.